All right. Actually, I'm gonna grab I just forgot my other book in the other room, but we're rolling live. I see Simeon is online here. Simeon,
Good morning.
I'll be back in 30 seconds. Sorry about that.
Good morning, Simeon.
Oh my goodness.
Good morning, Linda. Thank you for your help with the computer. Who is that guy dressed in black? Who is that Mr. Black?
You left the room as soon as you heard your voice.
I hope you're not sitting there in your bathing suit when you're here.
No, not my bathing suit, just my jockey shorts. That's all. So.
Yeah, worse.
Okay.
Jockey shorts, you could have been in Scarsdale.
What's the temperature there?
It's supposed to be 54.
Yeah, it's actually quite warm.
But that's yesterday, that was the low, right?
Yes.
Today's going to be a cold day.
It's a cold day, 45 to 54, yes.
As long as it
10
doesn't rain
degrees
again.
colder today.
Today's going to be invigorating.
I like that.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone had a good week. Last week we learned Sif Aleph and Beis in Reish Samech Beis. And so just to remind us, there is a little bit of a lighter siman in some ways in terms of the complexity of the halachot. And we talked about how it's important to make sure that our table is ready, our house looks ready, so that when we get home from shul on Friday night, it should look nice because of that the midrashic teaching that the Malachi Asharis who walk us home on Friday night, one is more positive and one is less positive, and we want the one who is a malach tov to say, wow, what a beautiful home, and be able to give the home a bracha and force the other malach, the malach ra, to have to say amen, and we don't want the vice versa. And we also saw in last week about the importance of trying to wear something that is more unique than what we wear during the week. We should have a big day Shabbos. We should have something that's more kavadik, more honorable for Shabbos, and that's everyone everyone has to do their best based on what their financial situation is, and obviously some of these things also depend upon time and place about what makes something nice versus there's appearance as opposed to what makes something nicer versus something else.
The key is to say that you should, during the week, you should tack up your jacket while working, and then during for Shabbat you should cut off the tacking that you put in the sewing so that it hung long. And you right? Did he talk
That's
about
that was mentioned here, right? Lefachol yishalshal klape mata shiu arukim. It should be a longer kind of, which was a midas hashirim. It would like made you feel more. It was something that more wealthy people would do. So you were trying to, I guess, appear more wealthy on Shabbos. Is that you're trying
next
to?
week, everybody.
Yeah, that's right. Right, exactly. Okay, yeah. We'll break out their Rebecca. Okay. So we're up to Sif Gimel. So again, Reish Samach Beis, Sif Gimel. In my edition, it says 68 at the top of the page. We're 2 lines from the end of the Shulchan Aruch. We did begin this last week, but we kind of finished it in a big hurry. So let's just reread it. Yilbash begadav hanaim, should wear nice clothing. V'yismach b'vias Shabbos, kiyotze likras hamelach u'kiyotze likras chasam v'chala. And you should be rejoicing in the Shabbos enters in the way that you would upon greeting a king or greeting a chassan and kala. Or I don't know that we have opportunities to greet kings, but certainly we've all been to weddings, and when you know the chassan and kala at a wedding, the ability to be there for them and to be rejoice for them. There's a big smile on your face, hopefully, when you go to a wedding, and there's a sense of joy for the chassan and kala. In the same way that we should, in that similar vein, we should bring in Shabbos with that kind of joy, almost like a wedding. Similar to Darbi Chanina Me'ataf V'koi b'fanya de ma'ale shabta. V'amar bo v'neitzei likras Shabbos malkasa. So Rabbi Chanina would wrap himself in a talis. He would go out on Erev Shabbos, and he would go and almost greet the day as it was entering in. And he said, "Bo v'neitzei likras Shabbos malkasa," more or less. And he would say, welcome to the Shabbos queen. And Rabbi Yanai Omer Bo'ikala Bo'ikala. Rabbi Yanai used to say, as Shabbos came in, he would welcome the Kala. Literally, he was comparing this to a wedding. And I guess in some ways we're either the spectator at this wedding, and the Kala is walking down, and it's so exciting, and it's just like at a wedding, everyone gets up, and it's just, so, or maybe we're the chastan. I don't know. You can think about what's the imagery here. Either way, it's a sense of joy of a wedding, of welcoming in the bride. So we're just reviewing what we did at the very end of last week, Les. And the Ramah writes here, "V'yal b'shatzmo b'vigdei Shabbos, miyad achar shirochatz atzmo." After we take a shower or bathe ourselves on Erev Shabbos, from that point on, we should wear Bigdei Shabbos. V'zeu kavod Shabbos, because when I put it on, my Shabbos clothing, after I'm done showering on Erev Shabbos, I'm doing it l'kavod Shabbos. I'm putting on my clothing for Shabbos. I'm ready for Shabbos. Remember, the mitzvah of kavod Shabbos is all about the preparations that go into Shabbos. It's all fulfillment in kavod Shabbos. And this is preparing. I just took a shower, and now I'm wearing my clothing. I'm ready to go. I'll be ready to go to shul. I don't know whatever else around here. I usually fulfill kavod Shabbos for about 2 seconds before I run out the door, and I'm on my way to shul. I'm not saying that it's a good thing. I wish I had more time. That I was able to be a little.
You should be like, see that they just start 40 minutes later, and they have all the time they need.
Exactly. I get a little extra man.
It doesn't matter if Shabbos starts at 4 o'clock or 8 o'clock. We're always running late.
That's what I find.
Somebody was here, a rabbi spoke, and he said, Scotland residents, he said, it just doesn't cut it when everyone's coming into shul with their hair still wet.
Oh, you told me this story once. Yeah, you told me this story once. Yeah. Look, it's nice, sort of. I don't want to say in theory, but it's nice if we have more time. But such is life. V'alkein, so the Ramah says here, therefore, lo yirchatz l'Shabbos ela samuch la'erev. And that's why I'm very machmir on this. That's why you should only shower or bathe yourself right before Shabbos. I'm very machmir on this. Shial bish atzmo miyad. Therefore, you will then immediately get into Shabbos clothing because you have no choice, because you got to go to shul. But the point being here is that every time we do something on Erev Shabbos, there are some who are very machmir to do it also when you're baking or cooking. They'll make a cake and they'll sort of put it into the oven and they'll close the door or whatever, and they say, the kavod Shabbos, because they wanted that. I'm clearly cooking this, baking this. It's for Shabbos. The same thing when we're even getting dressed after we bathe ourselves on Erev Shabbos. We should I don't have to say it. I don't know if you have to verbalize it, but the idea being that I'm not just getting dressed for 3 o'clock on Friday afternoon, but I'm getting dressed for Shabbos, and that's something that we're keeping in mind as we get closer and closer to Shabbos. And look at last week we talked about at the end of our learning of the Mishnah Berurah, we talked about how on when it's Yontif, and certainly when it's Yom Kippur, there's we cut out most of Kabbalah Shabbos, and even those who say more on Kabbalah Shabbos. So let's say if it's a Yontif situation or Yontif and Shabbos conflict, or I believe that Nusach Sfar, they actually do say some of L'Chadodi, not all of it. If I'm not mistaken, I feel like there's a little bit more than Nusach Ashkenaz.
We say.
Did you say it? The whole thing or only parts?
Well, the Syrian tradition is not to do the whole thing anyway. Right, so.
Got it. So, okay, there you go. So I think but it's Yom Kippur falls out, Shabbat, Yom Kippur falls out on Shabbat. Do you still say any? No, right. Even anyone who has the tradition to say a larger chunk of Kabbalah Shabbos when it's Yom Tov on Shabbos, when it comes to Yom Kippur, we don't do that. one of the reasons for that was I saw yesterday, I just wanted to add this point, was that there's this idea of on Shabbos, usually we have a neshama yiseir, we have this extra spiritual sense that we have on Shabbos, and the claim was made, I don't remember where I saw it, the claim was made that on Yom Kippur, Shabbos that falls on Yom Kippur, you don't have that. Partly, perhaps it's because we don't eat and drink on that Shabbos, and there's a little bit of the Shabbos, some of the even the aspects of how we fulfill the mitzvahs of Shabbos are lost on us on Yom Kippur. So because of that, we don't have the full, even whatever is normally done in some other, traditions, Syrian tradition. I'm sure again, Nusach Star, basically Ashkenazim, don't say all the extras when it's Yom Kippur. Okay, so now take a look at Yud Aleph.
Rav,
Yeah, Simeon, go ahead.
the halachas describe Shabbos as Tanug.
Yeah.
And since Yom Kippur is Inui HaNefesh,
Right.
which is contra to Tanug, we minimize the things that are directly designed for Shabbos.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's why we don't really engage. We say Mizmor Shir and we say Asher Malach, but that's it. Take a look at the Yud Aleph in the Mishnah Berurah. So it's on page Lamed Hey, second line of the Mishnah Berurah. He says this is commenting on the part that you're supposed to get dressed right after you shower. V'gam hanoshim nohagos kodam hadlakas haneros lirchos esatzman v'lilbosh bigdei Shabbos. And women also have the custom before lighting candles to bathe themselves and to get dressed in bigdei Shabbos and Shabbos clothing. V'ashrei lahem, and joy, ashrei lahem, happy for them. It's great if they are able to participate also in the midst of preparing themselves by bathing and showering. Omnam bayamim haktsarim. However, on days which are short, like we're coming to right now, by the way, these short Fridays, shemis achrim leishev bachanus, and whatever, they were delayed in the store. Then afterwards, they end up, they came back late from the store, getting ready for Shabbos, and then they bathe themselves and they get dressed. And then what happens? Sometimes you're cutting it really, really close, and it's a suffix. Now it becomes almost a doubt of Chilul Shabbos. Now today, again, we don't have as much of a suffix about Chilul Shabbos because we have a watch and we have a cell phone and we know exactly when Shabbos starts, which is not the case. Not certainly Bisman HaGemara in the time that the Shulchan Aruch was writing, they not everyone could tell time the way that we tell time. They would usually use the sky to figure out what time of the day it was. So mistakes were more often made because, you get a cloudy day and suddenly everything is thrown off. And so he writes here, therefore it's good to just give a little, reminder, we'll call it, instead of using the word warning, a reminder that they should, bathe themselves, get dressed, first. Right? If you're better before you light candles, yes, you should get showered and dressed, but if you're running late, better to light the candles in Mabu Shechol while you're wearing weekday clothing. You didn't have a chance to change yet. Better to light the candles, and you could still change on Shabbos. It's not a violation of a malacha, whereas lighting a fire, of course, is. Milova v'chas Hashem is fake Shabbos. Better to light with the weekday clothing on than to light, when you're violating Shabbos, or there's a doubt.
Who's watching the kids while all this is happening?
I'm sure the father took all of them to shul. They took all the father took all the kids to shul. The oldest kid, exactly. Vim habal. Don't worry, here comes the husband. That very important here. This is by the Chai Adam. So Hinda, I don't know. Hinda is a descendant of the Chai Adam. So the Chai Adam here says the following, quoted by the Mishnah Berurah. The husband sees that the wife is running late. So mitzvah gedolah shehu yadlik haneros. He should light the candles. Why?
You're related to Fred
There you go.
Fred's
Danzig.
father and my grandfather were first cousins.
There you go. So there you go. So this comes from that chet aleph that you see at the end. There's the Chai Adam. So anyway, the husband should light the candles. But lo yashgiach b'ktat asishto. Don't get into a fight about this with your wife. just, you know what, you step up, say, Ani, I got it this week. I can see you're running late, you're showering. I'll light the candles this week. And if it really comes to it, better to sit in the dark on Shabbos than violating Shabbos. If you're on any doubt whether or now it's Shabbos or not, again, today we know precisely to the second when it's Shabbos, where you're standing. You have an app called My Zmanim, and it tells you with the Zman, mamish in the spot where you're standing. And if you walk 3 steps to the left, the Zmanim will adjust.
No, Rav, not to the left.
To the right. Sorry. I was just using the different directions. So how about this? If you move ahead 3 steps, it'll change the calculation. So, and best to, again, if necessary, don't light the candles if you're not sure. If it's possible Chil Shabbos, better to sit in the dark.
So can somebody reach from this that you're allowed to bathe on Shabbat too?
No. It's only about changing. Yeah, you're right. Somebody could read that, but that's, I can say with 100% certainty that the Chafetz Chaim would not have wanted the implication to be read that way, because there's a whole siman that's dedicated to the Isra of Rechitza on Shabbos. You're not allowed to bathe on Shabbos.
So, those fellows, they all go to the mikveh on Saturday.
The mikveh, right. So it's interesting.
By the way, I used to see them because I'd daven in the shul. They come in, their shirts would be wet because they don't, they're dry.
They're not toweling off, right? So it's interesting. When we get to that sin, we'll talk about again. It's not. Maybe there are some Hasidim who have this minhag. It's not.
Absolutely. That's what I'm talking about.
It's an interesting question whether you can fully immerse yourself. Maybe in in cold water. Look, at the end of the day, by the way, if a woman is Leil Tevila on Shabbos, she goes to the mikvah, so there's a way that we permit that that relates to how the water is prepared for before Shabbos and things like that. But we will get there when we get to that simon. We'll definitely talk about Rechitza.
Exception. They don't indicate that there's a difference between changing and washing. They actually have them together.
Right. Now I hear. Yeah, I think that's why he only talks about Tadli Kaf Mal Bushe Chol. At least, yeah. If you didn't shower though, yeah, you can't. I mean, technically you have the 18 minutes if they don't accept Shabbos, and you can cut it close. For personal experience, I don't recommend it. It's very stressful. Okay. Reish Samach. Oh, sorry. Yud Beis. Mishmur Yud Beis. Samuch LaErev. So you're supposed to do this bathing process close to evening. Hainu Kashurochetz Asla Ma'at Beveso. That's if you were bathing yourself a little bit in your house. Again, when they would bathe, not that long ago. Again, the indoor plumbing is not such an old thing. They would have to go to a bathhouse. So the idea here is that you do the final washing of something, in your house with whatever water you have. That's what you would do close to dark. This is the situation of Rabbi Yehuda Bar Ilai in the Gemara, where he would bathe himself in the bathhouse earlier, and then at home he would kind of wash his hands and his face and his feet right before Shabbos, and then he would put on his Shabbos clothing. Right, that's what we mean here, right? Again, today this is lost on us because we just have, we bathe in our own homes.
A lot of us were during this year in the States. They just weren't doing it in Poland.
They weren't doing it
about 150 years ago, right? He's right.
He's writing probably early 1900s.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, it just it was different. I mean, they still had dirt floors.
Correct. Yeah.
Stick to Syria. Stuff.
We didn't have dirt floors, right? Or keep goats in the house. Right? He writes about it, right?
If a person is going to the bathhouse, of course you should do it early, so you don't end up with Chil Shabbos, you're going traveling, certainly on the winter, you should definitely, the days are short, go early. As we talked about in Siman Reish Samech, Sif Katan Alf, as we talked about some months ago when we were learning in the Mishnah Berurah Mashkas Abisham. Okay.
Igor.
Igor Veltman?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure,
oh,
of
yeah.
course.
Because Igor, I mean, when we were learning in the bathhouse, Igor's father used to take him to the bathhouse in Russia.
There you go.
Right? Remember that, Simeon?
Do you
I
recall
did-
that?
Yeah,
There you go.
It just it was so strange. I mean, just the way some of
This
right.
is
So
so-
wasn't so long ago.
This
for
is not that
them,
long ago that
right?
these things have changed. These things were relevant, more relevant. Okay, now we're moving on to Reish Samach Gimel. So Reish Samach Gimel, I love the title of this simon. You see it there, Mi Vami Hamadlikin. It's just a play off of the pasuk in Sefer Shmos where Paro says to Moshe, Mi Vami HaHolchim. Who you suggest that people should go for this 3-day yontif into the midbar? He says, no, who's going? And Moshe says, "Bina arenu vizkenenu nelech bitzonenu ivkarenu." Like we're all going. The kids, the men, the women, the animals are coming.
battle, right.
And here it's mi vami hamadlikin. If you want to ask Ricky Schatz, by the way, Ricky will tell you that in the diamond business, that on 47th Street, the Yidden, when they're talking about a deal, apparently the terminology they use is mi vami holchin, in the deal. No, who's part of this deal? So, anyways, here it's used in the context of who's lighting the candles. And what happens if it's a cloudy day and you make a mistake? Again, a little bit, I don't say outdated, but again, we have clocks and cell phones and whatnot. So we don't get as thrown off by a cloudy day as they did not that long ago. Okay, take a look at Sif Aleph. Here we go. It is of great importance to make a nice flame for Shabbos. Now, I want you to be very medayek here. The mitzvah of Shabbos candles, as I just maybe made a mistake already in English, is not candles. Yehei Zahir Lasos Ner Yofer. Really, my Ikar Hadin is one flame. Where do two flames come from? Well, next line here. The Yesh Mechavim, and there are those whose intention, who are very careful. Lasos Shtei Psilos, 2 wicks. Now, it's not a Havdalah candle we're talking about here. We're talking about 2 wicks. Echad Keneged Zachor, the Echad Keneged Shomor. 1 wick is in correspondence to the mitzvah of Shabbos of Zachor es Yom Shabbos L'Kadsho, and 1 is Keneged the Shomor. Remember when the 10 Commandments appear in 2 different places in the Torah, 1 in Yisro, 1 in Vayeschanan. The first time it says Zachor es Yom Shabbos L'Kadsho. The second time is Moshe retells the story of what happened at Har Sinai. He recalls it and he says Shomor es Yom HaShabbos. And so there are 2 aspects to it. Zachor represent the positive mitzvahs of Shabbos, and Shomor are the losas, the negatives, the can't do's of Shabbos. And so we light a candle that recounts each one of these aspects. That's where the idea of lighting minimally 2 candles comes from. But by the way, I remind everybody that the Me'ikar Hadin of lighting Shabbos candles is the first line. Yehi Zohir Lasos Ner Yofe. 1 Ner. Okay? And then there are those who do 2 psilos, 2 wicks. And that's a nice extra thing. Keneged Zachor v'Keneged Shoma. Now, take a look at the Ramah here. He says, "V'yicholin lehosif u'lahadlik shlosha o arba'a neiros." And if you want, you can add and light 3 or 4 candles. V'chein nagu, and this is the minhag that people add more candles. Now comes something that maybe you've heard of before, and maybe you haven't seen this inside. Now the Ramah writes, "Ha'isha sheshochacha ha'pam achas lehadlik." A woman who forgets one time to light the candles, madlekes kol yameha shlosha neros, she should light 3 candles. All right, she was lighting 2. She forgets one time, she should light 3 for the rest of her life.
My daughter-in-law does that. Oren's wife, it's not that she forgot. It's like when she was in the hospital delivering a baby, she
yes.
couldn't light. So she now lights.
For this reason?
Yeah.
So I want to add.
I realized
So
why.
making a
So
distinction, though,
cool.
this one says if you forget, as opposed to earlier on the Mishnah Berurah when we were talking, if let's say you were late and then because of Shabbos and you didn't have a chance to, they're not saying that you light a 3rd one here for that.
That's interesting. We have to define what is sheshochacha mean.
It's an honor.
Presumably, Oren would have done it for her.
Right. Well, no, because he was in the hospital with her.
Oh.
Neither of them could do
So
it.
I want to
Can't
actually.
light, yeah.
I want to share. So one of my fellow colleagues, one of my fellow teachers, Jake Slice teachers shared with me the following, but I did not put together until 2 years ago. They shared this with me, which was that the not just the Yeki minhag, but I'm sure others have this too. But when you have a child, you add another candle to the to the near the candelabra. Hasidim do it. So this person told me that the origins of that are actually when a woman would give birth, that she was not. Now we have all these ways of helping women recover from the pain, or at least not feel the pain as much. We give the pain medication, whatever. But after giving birth, it's a very painful process. And even if a woman gave birth in their own home, it isn't so simple for them to be moving around so freely. And because it was difficult to light the Shabbos candles the first week afterwards, the minhag started to develop from this idea that they couldn't light the Shabbos candles the first week because they were either in pain, or they had been the midwife, and I don't know, they went to the hospital, wherever they gave birth. So he said this was where a lot of this minhag started, and then it became okay. You have a child, so you add another candle.
I think that's a nice story. Look, I mean, in the old days, women used to go and squat down in the fields after giving birth. I mean, they were tougher.
100%. So this was the claim that one of the origins of this minhag was that. It's interesting that here in the Biurim Nosofim. That I have actually, you have this edition, Tommy. You're over there. They claim one of the claims is made for the minhag of lighting per numbers in the household. It's in number 11. Betam minhag olam lahosif ner kol pam shnolad yeled chadash kasav v'yalkute maharich shekeven shemar beneros zoche lebanim talmidei chachamim lachein mosifim ner. Since you will see in a moment, there's a tefillah that we're supposed to, that a woman says, whoever lights the candles should say when they light the candles, or when they light the Shabbos candles, about being able to be zocha, to have children, period, and to have children who are talmidei chachamim, and we sing it, there's a song for that. So therefore, every time you light the candle, says the Seder Hanhagos, it's Kadesha Yusku Abanim Lios Talmidei Chachamim. You want your children to be Talmidei Chachamim. This is the ultimate sort of fulfillment of the tefillah that you say when you're now that they've been born. There's an extra candle there, and the idea is that Ner. There's a pasuk of Ner. Hold on, I'm going to find it here. Ner mitzvah v'Torah or. And so, since this is this candle for the mitzvah, it should be a light for Torah, and the child represents the budding Talmid Chacham. So,
Excuse me.
yes.
In those days,
Yeah.
you couldn't light a candle because of whatever reason.
Yeah.
Men, had to
Correct.
light-
That's
because
why
you didn't light anyway.
BJ's critique is
There was no-
alachas kama v'kama stronger, because the husband should have lit the candles in the house.
They needed for light in the house.
Correct.
That's what they use it.
Correct. That's why it's also problematic. You'll see. We're going to see in a moment here that this also is lost on us.
When did he write?
Who, the Mishnah Berurah?
No.
That what I just read?
Yeah.
These are all things that are post Mishnah Berurah. So these are 20th century. This is not the Mishnah Berurah was early. So again, post Mishnah Berurah, these extra commentaries are often quoting people like Rav Moshe or Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach. The Seder he wrote a sefer called the Seder Hanhagos, Hisnahagus, right? Yalkute Maharich.
Yeah, Maharich.
Yeah.
Was it. Yes, I remember.
Excuse me, Rav. So
Yeah.
if we just learned, and I believe somebody asked the question, I'm not hearing clearly, but it seems that if the wife for some reason can't light, and the husband lights for her, is she therefore not off the hook from having to light that third candle, Kol Yemei Chayeha?
I would think that she would be off the hook. Because we'll see in a moment, the Mishnah Berurah is going to explain the whole reason for the extra candle is it's a knas. It's a penalty. It's a way to remind the woman, or really the household, right, to make sure that Shabbos candles are lit, and we shouldn't take it lightly. And by the way, it seems not so important, but when money is not so, more oil is more oil.
Right.
And it's a distance. It's to trying to disincentivize us from taking it lightly to make sure we light the Shabbos candles.
We said it in spades, economy, right? Because whether you have the money to buy.
Right. What happens when you have
to
only
contribute to
enough
it in
money
some
for
way,
Shabbos
yeah.
candles or Hanukkah candles? Which ones do you buy? Yeah, that's a
So
talked
it's a
about
real
case.
financial issue.
Correct. And so the Ramah just ends here by saying, what she lights 3 candles. The rest
Now we have Con Ed.
the Con Ed.
Also an issue.
Yeah, going up and up. Ki yachol lahosif al davar hamechuvan neged davar acher ubevad shelo yifchos. And so you have she lights the 3rd candle for the rest of her life, because at the end of the day you can add more. Kineged davar acher. You have what you have, the baseline, and then you can always add. There's no. Usually we say like being mosif on a mitzvah, right? Bal tosif, adding to a mitzvah is not something you should really do. If a mitzvah is defined in a certain way, you should do it the way it's defined. Sometimes there are different ways to understand it. We're more machmer, more mekil, but usually we don't add to a mitzvah. We really don't. We don't do it. But that's not what we're talking about here. Kilo chol mahosif al davar hamechuvan neged davar acher. Right? What is zachor and shamor? Yes, that sort of has a reason for those two. Okay, you can add others as long as you don't take away. Right? You can't start adding and then taking away once you've added a certain amount to your normal minhag. So take a look now at the Mishnah Berurah. We have a lot to read on the Mishnah Berurah here, which will probably take us through our time today and then into next week. Aleph. Yehei Zahir v'chulei. Yehine ikar hadlakas haner hu chova mishum mitzvos oneg Shabbos. The essential understanding of the mitzvah of lighting the candle is that it's an obligation because of the mitzvah of Oneg Shabbos. Oneg Shabbos is about enjoying Shabbos. Kavod Shabbos is about the prep that goes into Shabbos. Oneg Shabbos is about delighting. The word Oneg is the delight in the Shabbos while it's happening. And to make it really beautify the mitzvah, we try to make the candle, the flame nice. How to make a flame nice is something we'll talk about probably in a few weeks from now, which is to use the fuel of the fire. Actually, he alludes to it here. The fuel for the fire, the best one is, according to halacha, olive oil. Olive oil makes the nicest flame. It burns the nicest. The light follows, as described. We'll see in the Mishnah Berurah when we get to that siman. The light kind of follows the wick very nicely down into the oil. When you lose a wax candle, sometimes it can become, unintended, a hot mess, and whatever. And sometimes, something can I don't know, get a little more messy. This is I don't know if again, my own experience. When you lose, olive oil, I'm just thinking about Hanukkah candles. They're there. They flicker nicely, and they're not as messy as but look, some of this is also a little bit on the eye of the beholder.
Excuse me, Rob, at one time, candles were made from animal fat.
Animal fat,
and
right?
There was always a chashash that you'd be making a bracha over tarfus, and there seemed to be not that you're going to eat the candles, but there seems to be a reluctance to do that.
Right. When we get to Reish Samach Dal, which we're not that far away from, obviously. So we're gonna correct. We're basically gonna cover the things of Bameh Madlikin, of Dinei HaPsila, of Hashemen, how to make the wick, what the oil should be. We'll get there. Sif Katan Beis, excuse me. Yofe v'isa bashas. It says in the Gemara, the Zocha avur lezeh levanim talmidei chachamim. When you light a nice candle, it's the Gemara talks about that you should be meriting children who are talmidei chachamim. Dechsiv, where it says in I want to say it's in Mishlei, but I'm not maybe remembering correctly. Ki ner mitzvah v'torah or, that for the candle is a mitzvah, for the flame is a mitzvah, and the Torah is the light. So alidei ner mitzvah, the Shabbos, the explanation, the drush on that pasuk is that through the ner mitzvah of Shabbos, the mitzvah of the Shabbos candles or candle, ba or the Torah. So then comes the light of Torah. Ulakach roi shetispal haisha acha shetikmor hahadlaka v'habracha. That's therefore the woman who lights after she completes the lighting and makes the bracha. she should daven, she'yitain la HaKadosh Baruch Hu banim zcharim me'ir ma'Torah. HaKadosh Baruch Hu should give her sons who are me'irim ba'Torah, who are lighting up the Torah, who are lit up, I should say, by Torah, meaning they should be ensconced in Torah. And that's again, that's really where that song comes from. There should be lights lit in every room where people will go in the house on Shabbos. Al kolpanim ner echad, there should be at least one light. Even if people aren't eating, there should be some light if someone's going to walk in a particular area on Shabbos. So they don't trip over a piece of wood or a stone, or a pile of Legos or whatever it is. But when you make the bracha, the candle that is the most essential candle, the one that you make, the bracha of lahadlik ner shel Shabbos, is where you eat. And therefore, when a person lights candles, it should be done ideally in the place where you eat. Now, you have to be very careful. And I don't think this is a unique problem to our time. I think this probably was a problem in all times. If you have children who are sometimes not as careful because they don't understand everything about it, you have to be very careful to light it in a way that is safe. No one should have a fire by lighting it in a spot which is right near the food, but suddenly also right near where the kids are playing and doing things and whatever. In my house, we built into the wall a stand, which is in the corner of the room, and right there, and that's right next to our dining room table. Again, it's a little bit lost on us because the Shabbos candles were supposed to give the light for the room, and today, even if you have Shabbos candles, you also have the chandelier right above the table. You have the light fixture. And the reality is that that's where most of our light is coming from. But really, the Shabbos candles, when you light it, it's a mitzvah of lighting up the home so that there is shalom bayis there, that no one's tripping, no one's falling, and everyone is able to enjoy and see each other's company, see the food. That's what Shabbos candles are supposed to be peace into the home. It's a little bit lost on us today, but there are those who are, so that's my one piece. So what about all the lights in the rest of the house? So obviously you don't have a mitzvah to light candles in every other part of the house, but there is a mitzvah to go around. There are some Gedolei Torah who do this, I have seen, or they've described it, that they'll go around in their house before Shabbos and they'll do this. Simi, I'm sorry, you're going to lose this a little bit. Watch this. They'll go to the light switch before Shabbos, and they'll turn off the lights, and then they'll turn them back on, and they'll say, "L'kavod Shabbos." And then when they turn the light on in the other rooms of the house, they have now turned it on L'kavod Shabbos. That not just it was Sam on the whole day, but now when it was lit for Shabbos.
Okay,
And that's
so
really a
those
fulfillment. Yeah.
Those of us who program on our phone,
Yeah.
that's what we do Friday afternoon.
Right.
Oh, you
And we
program the timers.
Right. And-
Okay, to go on.
Those
Okay.
are on-
L'kavod Shabbos.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, we
Okay.
turn ours on for a couple of Shabbos. I mean, just.
Beautiful. That's
Well, we just leave them on. We don't have them go on.
right.
We don't have one of
But
these,
when you turn,
we had a late night and all of a sudden we're sitting in the dark.
but when you turn it on before Shabbos, that it's L'kavod Shabbos, right? Yeah, exactly. So that's okay. Good. It seems to be a more widespread minhag based on the non-scientific.
Price and apparently did not like the idea of.
Well, timers, right? But let's put aside timers. We'll get back to timers because
No. Timers is for on Shabbos. This is actually.
this is before Shabbos.
This is
Before Shabbos, just turning on. Here they were talking about lighting a candle. The candle will go out at some point, but the idea is that on Friday night, when you need the lights, where there are lights everywhere in the house.
So now that you have lights, what's with
So it's really, as I said, I think that the symbolism is lost on us. I think in a major way, which is kind of sad in some ways. But there's still a mitzvah. I mean, it's still a mitzvah on the books to light Shabbos candles. Right? That is still undoubtedly the case, and it still should be lit somewhere where you're eating, and you should try to get some benefit from it. Right? That's why, at the very least, it's mixing and joining with the other light in the room.
Right, but it sounds like it's more of a minhag because you have the other lights.
No, I think it's more than that. I think there's because the essential is that there was a mitzvah, you could claim that turning on a certain kind of light can constitute candle lighting. I remember Rav Schechter speaking about this, that sometimes you might find yourself in a hotel room and you're not allowed to,
Or a hospital.
or a hospital or something like that, and you're not allowed to light candles. So what do? So you can take an incandescent light bulb, which has those metal filaments. Rav Schechter holds that not Rav Schechter quotes from the Rambam, that the Rambam holds that glowing metal that's red hot, that's glowing red, is considered an aish. So to the point that if you turn it on Shabbos, if you turn it on Shabbos, you may be violating Doraisa, but you can actually use that to light candles before Shabbos. So you make the bracha beforehand, and then let's say you would plug it in, this incandescent, whatever little light bulb or something like that goes in your room. Again, better to use candles because that's always the tradition, but that can fulfill the mitzvah, and I think to the point where you can make a bracha on that. But
by the way, if you left the light on in the stove,
Yeah,
if you had a gas stove, you turn the light on, you turn the stove on.
Yeah.
Right, and you put a blech over it, so that's a lighting also.
True, but the idea is that that light should be at the very least shining towards the table. If not that it's not giving light, at least it sort of adds beauty to the Shabbos table atmosphere.
Over it, so you're not really.
Right, you're not probably
getting the
seeing it so much,
experience of
right.
the flame,
Right.
right? So
The idea is to see it.
the real question would be not so much that can't become a minhag. The question is, can I say that when I turn on my chandelier, I don't need to light anymore because I could say the bracha of turning on the chandelier, right? Nobody said that we could, right?
So the question. So
the question is, if let's say you forgot one Shabbos and now you have to light two candles, instead of lighting the second candle, you have the chandelier. You make the bracha on the one candle, and you have the other lights in the house. That'll be the second and the third.
That's not
Today we don't-
So
Today we use LEDs. We can't.
right. So I was gonna say that I specifically use the incandescent light bulb is necessary because an LED there's no flame there, and even if you're using what's those
Fluorescent.
the fluorescent. So
Yeah,
kach
fluorescent
mekublani, that a
light,
fluorescent there is a coil there on the edge that does glow, has a metal coil, but that's not what you see when you see the light from an incandescent light bulb. Not incandescent, excuse me, from a fluorescent light bulb. What you see is the shaving off of the electrons from the heated metal, which are then bouncing back and forth, and that's what's causing the light. The light's not coming from the glowing metal. So to use that as a Shabbos light is not for the mitzvah of lighting Shabbos candles. That wouldn't suffice. Neither would an LED. Again, if you're in a pinch, you can use an incandescent light bulb. I know that when we were in the hospital for one of the children, after they were born, that yes, they actually, the hospital provided us this, and we plugged it in. It was a little incandescent light bulb, and that was how we did the Adlak Vasneros. But that's in a pinch. So yeah, it's about also adding beauty. So I think that's why there's still a mitzvah to light the candles. That's why I think people get nice candelabra or something like that to light to Shabbos candles, but we don't think about that nice candelabra when it goes into other room. By the one where you're eating, that's where you should light those candles.
Excuse me, Rav. I don't understand the preoccupation with having the flame or a viable halachic equivalent. It seems to me what the halacha is talking about is the light, the brightness, the or for Shabbos. So if I have an electric device that doesn't have the equivalent of a wick, am I not fulfilling? Am I not being mekayem the mitzvah?
So if you're talking about the lighting for the bracha with the bracha where you eat, that should be done with a real flame, a real fire. As a backup, as I mentioned before, the Rambam holds that glowing metal is considered an aish and therefore could be utilized to make a bracha for Shabbos candles. I think it's not something we would minhag is that we use a candle, but if again in a pinch you can use that. But in the other rooms around the house, it's fine to use whatever source that likes light, because there's not a mitzvah. It's more that you don't want people to fall and trip, and you want there to be shalom bayis in the, in the house, that no one's getting upset and angry that they stepped on the Legos for the 17th time, even though I told them to clean it up already. Never happened. Just a story that I heard once. Take a look at Sif Katon Gimel, and then we're going to pause. La Asos. That if you want, you can make 2 wicks. So La Asos V'im Ma'osav Mitzum Samin. Look, what if money's tight? Money is tight. So near Eshatov Yoser Sheyikne Echad Yafe V'lo Shnayim Gruim. And you can only buy 1 candle. You can only have enough oil, let's say, for 1 candle, or you could, and a nice one, or 2 gruin are 2. Like, okay, they're not so great, but they're 2. So should I get 2 that are or 1 that's nice? So the answer is, if you are really so tight for money, and we shouldn't know of such things, but then it's better to just get 1 candle that is nice than 2 that are not as beautiful. And that's really teaches you the lesson here, that the ikar mitzvah of hadlakas neros is really 1. And if you're really in a real pinch and you only have 1, you should still light it and make the bracha. That's still considered the mitzvah, as you see here. When money is tight, you see this calculation. All right, we'll pause here. And I hope that everybody has a wonderful day. And we'll continue next week to continue forward. And Miva Hamadlikin. There are many more topics to get to. It's quite a lengthy simon, and we'll take things one at a time. Okay, take care, everybody.
Shed some light on the subject.
We'll shed some light on the subject. It's a good one.